Oh my, well, it's good to be back at meeting after yearly meeting last Sunday. It was a very eventful week last week, the annual motorcycle trip of the Quaker Outlaws Motorcycle Club, followed by the 165th annual session of Western Yearly Meeting, which I have attended 46 years in a row. Both went smoothly, though not as I had imagined. We had intended to ride to Giant City State Park in Southern Illinois, but the day was cruelly hot, and one of our members suffered from heat exhaustion. I won't mention his name. I don't want to embarrass Ned. And so this necessitated a detour to New Harmony, Indiana, where we spent the first night eating dinner at the only place open in New Harmony on a Monday night, which was a tavern, the Yellow Tavern. We thought it unseemly to spend the evening in a tavern, but then it occurred to us that perhaps God had diverted us to New Harmony for that very purpose, to go there and witness to its occupants, converting them to Quakerism and setting them on the straight and narrow path of righteousness, which we tried to do, but met with stiff resistance, most of the tavern goers being Episcopalians and therefore resistant to conversion. The next day, we rode to our farmhouse in Paoli, where the Lord guided us to yet another tavern in the town of Celestine, full of Catholics who proved every bit as impervious to the gospel as the Episcopalians from the night before. So we shook the dust from our feet, as Jesus counseled us to do in the Gospel of Matthew, and we awakened the next morning and proceeded north to Nashville, Indiana, via State Road 135, which turned out to be closed due to bridge repairs. It didn't say State Road 35 was closed on the map. On the map, it was shown as a little twisty road highlighted in yellow, designated scenic route winding its way through the Indiana countryside before arriving at the charming village of Nashville. But in reality, State Road 135 was one detour after another. Plus, on the map, Nashville was written in tiny, tiny letters denoting a modest population. But in reality, it was bumper-to-bumper traffic all the way through town, worse than any city we had ridden through. We've been thinking about maps as a metaphor for our lives, specifically about the maps we learn early on that shape and guide our lives. Today I want to suggest that while maps promise us one thing, we sometimes experience something entirely different. I wouldn't ever begin a journey without consulting a map, but neither would I deceive myself by thinking my course would never change once my journey was underway. Even the best maps, drawn by the finest cartographers, can never anticipate the detours we might experience in our lives. How do we handle these unexpected detours? I was visiting with an old friend this week. I've known him since second grade. And we were talking about our old classmates, and he asked me what became of a girl in our high school class. She was just an incredibly bright young lady who had studied at Purdue University, graduated with honors, landed a dream job at a big company. 10 years into the job, she was laid off during an economic downturn and returned home to live with her parents, where she has remained ever since, undone by this unexpected turn in her life. In his book, The Failure of Nerve, the Rabbi Edwin Friedman defines maturity as the willingness to take responsibility for one's own emotional being and destiny. The willingness to take responsibility for one's own emotional being and destiny. This means that when our lives don't follow the paths we had anticipated, that we abstain from blaming circumstances, impugning others, or resigning from life. Instead, we take responsibility for finding another route, another course, and moving forward toward our goals. That is maturity. It's easy to look at someone whose life seems easier than our own and think to ourselves, well, they have it easy because they've never had trouble. Except I have never met anyone yet whose life's path was free of difficulty and detours. Have you ever met somebody like that? Even the most fortunate among us have encountered difficulties and setbacks, the dashing of dreams, paths we thought would be direct and trouble-free were found to be burdensome, full of unanticipated turns. And let's suppose we did meet the one person out there whose life had never been touched by hardship. Is that something to envy? It only means their character and their strength have never been tested, and that they are the poorer for that. How do we handle the unexpected detours in our lives? Well, I know my go-to response. My go-to response has always been anger. I stomp, I storm, I rail, I shake my fist. Joanne and I were chatting with someone last week, and this person commented on my equanimity and self-control, noting that in all the years they had known me, they had never seen me upset. And Joanne started laughing so hard, she snotted herself. Now, there's this Bible college over in Ohio that has a class called, I kid you not, The Work of the Pastor's Wife. And the first thing they teach you in that class is not to snot yourself when someone compliments your husband. But back to anger. You know what anger is? Anger is someone saying to the world, how dare you do this to me? As if they should be exempt from the challenges faced by everyone else. In that sense, anger is egotistical. An expectation of favored treatment, not given. How do we handle the unexpected detours in our lives? Some react with resignation. Oh, well, I should have known this would happen. Nothing ever goes right for me. No matter how hard I try, it never works out. Why bother? The thing about resignation is how often it is laziness and irresponsibility masquerading as a plea for pity. If I am fired from a job because I'm habitually late and don't do a good job when I finally get there, I am not the victim of bad luck or capricious mistreatment. I am being held accountable for my irresponsibility. If I don't maintain my car and the engine blows, it isn't because Toyota has it in for me. I am suffering the consequences of my negligence. How do we handle the unexpected detours in our lives? 2 words: graciously and creatively. Graciously and creatively. We begin by acknowledging that we are not exempt from difficulty, sorrow, or bad luck. We therefore remember our manners. We remember our manners. We do not rant or fume or stomp. Now, to be sure, I am not speaking here of systemic injustice visited upon us or others, in which case ranting, fuming, or stomping might well be appropriate. I am talking about those moments in our lives when the bridges are closed for repair and another way must be found. We respond to those detours, those frustrations, graciously and creatively. We remember our manners. We remember that our families and our friends do not want to hear our litany of complaints. We forego whining and moaning and anger and direct our energy toward creative solutions. This is not easy. I know it isn't for me. You know, the irony of all those bridge repairs on State Road 135 is that our unanticipated detours made possible one of the finest, most beautiful rides the Quaker outlaws have ever enjoyed. Curves and creeks and forests and farms. It was a day of unexpected loveliness and charm, reminding me that sometimes when life does not go as planned, it is not a curse, but a gift. As we enter into open worship, think about the detours your life has taken that at first alarmed you or angered you. And think of what came of it. And if you feel led, please stand and share a time in your life when a detour that you had feared became for you a thing of beauty.